This is a real good story about how the U.S. military uses people uh, so that they can gain bodies because they don't care how they recruit people as long as they get people. We have a person living in Florida who is now a vet, was recruited by the military uh, from Australia. He was born in New Zealand, lived in Australia. Military recruited him, told him that he could become a citizen if he served in the military and got an honorable discharge after his tour. Thought he was a citizen when he got out of the military, only to find out that they didn't do anything.
Well, this week we're celebrating what it means to be an American. But for the past month, investigative reporter Katie LaGrone has exposed how some Floridians are facing little-known barriers to becoming legal U.S. citizens.
And tonight, Katie shares the story of a veteran who joined the United States military under the promise of American citizenship, but tells us what he got instead were broken promises.
Bye, Boo. Paul Canton is headed to work near his home in Ocala. On this day, a neighbor gives him a ride.
I have somebody who gives me a ride to work, and then I get a ride home. Once I get a ride home, here I am.
It's not that Canton doesn't know how to drive. It's that he's not legally allowed to. He can't get a driver's license or even an ID card.
I kind of feel like I'm under house arrest. I can't go anywhere, do anything. There's a lot of restrictions with no identification. Can't even go cash a check.
Yeah, when you don't have an ID, there's very little that she can do until you get one. And if it's almost impossible to get an ID, yeah, you're basically uh, prevented from doing a lot of things in the United States.
That's because Canton isn't a legal U.S. citizen, never has been, even though he spent the last 30 years living like one.
These are some of the awards that I was given while I was in the military.
It all started when Canton.
If you've been living in the United States for 30 years and you've been in the military, you've been paying taxes and stuff like that, you are a citizen. Uh, it's pretty idiotic for somebody to live this long in the United States and still not have their citizenship. It shouldn't take this long, or this person actually shouldn't even be dealing with this issue. If if somebody from another nation joins the U.S. military, they should automatically become a citizen joining the military.
Who was born in New Zealand and raised in Australia, says he was recruited to join the U.S. military. That's right, Canton isn't American, but he's got all the goods to show he served as an American soldier in the U.S. Marines. Which is how he explains his citizenship crisis began.
I was told if I got an honorable discharge, then I would get citizenship at the end of my tour.
Automatically? And then what happened?
I got out, assumed I had citizenship, I voted, I did everything a citizen would do.
He got married here,
And it's the failure on the part of the military to inform him if he actually had citizenship and what he should do to obtain it.
raised his kids, paid his taxes, even voted in U.S. elections. Until a trip to his local DMV to renew his driver license a few years ago, quite literally,
Kind of shock.
stopped him in his American tracks.
I figured somehow somebody had, forgot to push a button or do something. I didn't think it was going to be anything, here's my paperwork, here's my military service, and it was going to be done.
It wasn't, and 5 years later, still isn't.
It seems like every time we go back and try and deal with this, it's just another door closed.
According to federal immigration law, foreigners who serve in the U.S. military are eligible for citizenship if they serve during a period of hostility. Canton enlisted during the Gulf War in the early 90s, but he didn't become active duty for another 7 months after that period of hostility ended, which, according to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration, made all the difference on his path to calling America home.
He served.
It shouldn't matter though, because he served his time in the military. His reward should have been getting a citizenship, just like the military promised. They uh, should be required to make due on their side of the contract.
Our country. This is not fair.
Elizabeth Ricci is Canton's immigration attorney, working pro bono to help him solve what she says is a common practice by America's government.
They are told by recruiters, who, by the way, get a bonus for the number of recruits they sign up. We'll take care of it. We'll get your citizenship. Don't worry about it.
Ricci and Canton are now.
Yeah, and that's one reason why recruiters in the military doesn't care how they get people. Their recruiters are going to be paid their way if they lie to you or tell you the truth. And if lying to you makes it easier for them to recruit you and get that signing bonus, they're going to lie.
Now taking his case to federal court. But the notion of America recruiting foreigners into its military under false promises isn't new.
Unfortunately, it is not new. It has been going on for many years.
Rose Carmen Goldberg is director of the Veterans Law Practicum at UC Berkeley School of Law. Earlier this year, the group released this report detailing America's long history of recruiting immigrants to serve our country, only to abandon them after service. The report.
I mean, it's no real surprise that the military is lying to foreigners to get them to join, when they're all too willing and happy to lie to U.S. citizens to get them to join. And look at what happens to American vets after they get out of the military. A good number of them become homeless, and the government won't help them.
Titled Broken Promises.
This problem is so big that the federal government itself doesn't even know the scope of the problem.
In terms of the numbers of people, is there any way to quantify that?
Rough estimates are hundreds or thousands. No one knows.
In an email, a spokesperson from the Department of Defense said it does not sanction bringing immigrants into the U.S. military under false promises of obtaining citizenship, but goes on to state while non-citizens who enlist under the law are qualified for expedited naturalization, those pursuits are between the individual and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services.
It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Paul Canton doesn't know what his future in America holds. After he joined America's military, he lost his citizenship in Australia, leaving the father of two and recent widow.
She's still here because if we buried her, I've got no way to go visit with her.
Essentially stateless and pleading for America to give what he says it promised when he stepped up to fight and defend her.
Why are you fighting?
Yeah, he is. If he doesn't have citizenship anywhere else, he is considered a stateless person, which there is a large number of people that are considered stateless, where they have no citizenship to any nation for whatever reason, and they're basically stuck in limbo.
Fighting this so hard.
I've got nowhere else to go.
U.S. Citizenship and Immigration not commenting on Paul Canton's case, telling us they don't discuss individual cases. But a spokesperson says they recognize the sacrifice of veterans and are committed to properly adjudicate